This is day 1 of me learning how to draw. I decided I'd start with an empty sketchbook page and draw some simple shapes, maybe even a face or two. Not really trying to make anything look like anything. This is more about starting to develop a habit. I know there are faster ways to learn, and I know if I dove right into studies or drills, I'd quickly decide it was too difficult, get overwhelmed, and give up on learning altogether, like I have done so many times before. See, this is far from the first time I've tried to teach myself how to draw. It's not my first day one. It's a skill I've admired in others and wanted for myself quite literally my entire life. I'd always be super motivated, sometimes even buy a ton of expensive equipment, and as quickly as the motivation came, it would be gone. But not this time. This time I'm gonna force myself to include drawing into my daily routine and hold myself accountable in public. I will be tracking all of my progress right here on this channel. This is day 2 of documenting my drawing progress on YouTube. I ventured into the world of actually trying to make things look like things. It was during this process I learned 2 very important lessons. I don't fully understand how my hand works in relation to the pencil, and I don't fully understand how shapes work. The 2 main things I want to improve on right now are making my circles less lopsided and less procrastination. Because even though I sat down today to draw and did get some drawing done, I still wrote words on the page. I think I do this because it mechanically feels like drawing, but it's something I'm confident in doing, which is counterproductive to my goal in the first place. This is day 3 of teaching myself how to draw. I feel like I've managed to weave drawing into my daily routine and started to build up the habit. I also switched over to the pen for these doodles. I prefer how a pen glides over a more gritty pencil. But these aimless doodles are not only starting to get boring, but I'm aware they won't do me much good as far as developing actual technical skills. Moving forward, I'm definitely going to work on more purposeful practice. This is day 4 of teaching myself how to draw. I wanted to try more technical practice, something with slightly more aim that might help me improve a little faster than just doodling. So I figured practicing lines was a good place to start. And with a few cameos from my kit and cookie, I did just that, drawing tons and tons of lines. Little lines, big lines, diagonal lines, horizontal lines. I figured I'd cover all of my bases. I'm hoping this will help me develop straighter and more confident lines, but also improve my hand-eye coordination with drawing. This is day 5 of teaching myself how to draw. I wanted to continue to practice lines, but with a little more focus so it actually helped me improve. And I used the idea given me by this comment. I drew a bunch of circles and connected them with mostly straight lines. I also tried to use my elbow more than my wrist, which got harder as I filled up more of the page. Turns out drawing takes up a lot more space than I expected. But I'm pretty happy with how straight I got some of these lines, especially the diagonal ones. This is day 6 of teaching myself how to draw. Today I learned this shit is hard. I finally stopped putting off drawing from reference and plopped down a Toad figurine and drew him 9 or so times. Some times went better than others, but none went well. This is day 7 of teaching myself how to draw. Thanks to this comment, I decided to try drawing from a 2D reference. Well, mostly 2D reference. And honestly, I thought this one would be pretty easy. I was mistaken. However, I don't find my 3rd attempt too atrocious. This is day 8 of teaching myself how to draw. I've seen a lot of resources online as well as helpful commenters tell me to emphasize drawing with my elbow instead of my wrist. Not only does it help with straighter lines, but presumably also limits wrist fatigue / pain. So today I practiced just that. Threw a circle down in the middle of the page and started sending lines outward with my elbow and shoulder instead of my wrist. This is day 9 of teaching myself how to draw. Over my first 2 attempts at drawing from a reference, I learned 2 things. Everything is an oval, and I suck at drawing ovals. So I figured it was time for some oval practice to see what they're all about. And honestly, I still don't know. I'm pretty sure a lot of these are just curved rectangles, however that also might be what an oval is. I also chucked in some circles because why not? Tomorrow I'll be back to reference drawing. This is day 10 of teaching myself how to draw. And because of this comment, I decided to draw something I was actually interested in drawing, which is engines and complex machinery, that kind of thing. I know draw something you want to draw to improve seems like pretty basic and obvious advice, but when you've been mostly researching drills and whatnot to improve, it's exactly what I needed to hear. I took a severe detour from the reference pretty quickly, but I enjoyed myself, which is definitely the most important part. This is day 11 of teaching myself how to draw. And this was by far the hardest day I have had so far. I didn't get to draw yesterday because I was too busy, and breaking that streak made it very difficult to sit down today and get some practice in. I managed to entice myself to the desk with promises of simple doodles, got the habit restarted, and got my hand moving, which was what I needed the most by far. This is day 12 of teaching myself how to draw, and I feel I made some actual progress today. Even though Piplup was absolutely beating my ass, I was attempting to start with the head and add the other details in later. But the more Piplups I drew, the more I discovered that starting with his finer details actually made it easier to build the Piplup around them. And even though by the end of it I didn't produce a Piplup I was 100% happy with, I'm still happy with today's practice overall, and feel like I have a better starting point for next time. This is day 13 of teaching myself how to draw. It took me almost 2 weeks to use a pencil. I'd say I decided on it, but really I just finally caved to the comments. I, for some reason, was incredibly insistent on using a pen and just going in raw, but I've accepted that this was an awful way to learn. Being able to correct mistakes without literally restarting and wasting all that room in the sketchbook is obviously the better choice. This is day 14 of teaching myself how to draw. I figured I'd stay in the vein of attempting to draw cartoon characters, or at least cartoon animals. Today I drew a little frog guy. I couldn't get the feet quite right, but overall I'm happy with how he turned out. This is day 15 of teaching myself how to draw. I've been drawing a lot of cartoon characters, so I figured I'd break and try some good old classic houses. I'm having trouble stopping my squares from leaning and almost coming to a point, so that's something I'm trying to work on. This is day 16 of teaching myself how to draw, and even though my Bart Simpson here is far from perfect, even this progression is really motivating for me, considering where I started at the beginning of this experiment was leaps and bounds below my shitty little Bartholomew Jojo Simpson here. This is day 17 of teaching myself how to draw, and I got humbled hard by Brian Griffin. On the surface, I expected him to be kinda easy to draw, but like this comment said, cartoon characters with barely any shapes can be deceptively difficult to draw since there's less to go off of. He kept looking like a rat, so eventually I decided to just draw some hamster-looking dudes at the bottom. This is day 18 of teaching myself how to draw, and I learned something very important today. I don't actually know how to improve my drawing. I've been practicing every day, and yet I don't think I've learned anything. I may have slightly improved mechanically, but it's definitely time to rip off the band-aid and dive into some research. This is day 19 of teaching myself how to draw, and because of the recommendation of everyone really, I intend to start breaking down what I draw into super simple shapes. But for tonight, I just wanted some super basic shape practice, just to work on my shapes a tiny bit. This is day 20 of teaching myself how to draw, and I finally started breaking things down into shapes. Kinda. For a first attempt, I'm gonna give myself a pass, but I had a hard time figuring out which shapes to actually lay down and which shapes weren't as important. I did see the obvious merits of this approach though, as it made it possible for me to draw the pig's snout, whereas just copying lines wouldn't have gotten me there. This is day 21 of teaching myself how to draw. I decided on a cow because of how rectangular their head shape is, and I'm reasonably proud of how the face turned out. However, the body and legs are an entirely different animal. This is day 22 of teaching myself how to draw. I didn't have a ton of time to practice tonight, but keeping up the habit and getting even a little bit of practice in is worth it. This is day 23 of teaching myself how to draw, and today was hard. I just couldn't get this bear's face right. Instead of getting frustrated and leading to no positive practice today, I went with what I had and ended up with a squirrel superhero. This is day 24 of teaching myself how to draw, and I feel as though I'm almost going backwards. I know I'm relying too much on the frequency of my practice instead of the quality of it. I need to take a step back and find drills and ideas beyond to draw from reference and you'll improve. This is day 25 of teaching myself how to draw, and I didn't try and draw anything specific today. Just attempted little square designs to help with hand-eye coordination. Oh, and a bunch of circles. This is day 26 of teaching myself how to draw, and it's kind of embarrassing that it took me almost a month to draw a cube, but oh well. I didn't get all of these where I wanted them per se. I had a hard time making all the lines even, but by the end of it, I felt closer than the beginning. This is day 27 of trying to teach myself how to draw, and I didn't really go into this practice with a specific plan, just kind of doodling whatever I wanted to. And this is really important for me to remember that through all the practice and trying to get better, drawing is still supposed to be fun. And taking some time to just draw what you want, even if that's mindless little doodles, is still important. This is day 28 of teaching myself how to draw, and I actually got a drawing request for the first time, so I figured I'd honor it. Isaac from The Binding of Isaac, which I'm still not entirely sure what it is beyond being a video game. This is day 29 of teaching myself how to draw, and this was my first actual attempt at shading and shadows. It isn't perfect, matter of fact, that isn't even how shadows work, but I'm happy that I'm finally approaching even the most simple of the advanced drawing skills. This is day 30 of teaching myself how to draw, and I just wanted to mess around with a blank piece of paper. Weirdly enough, this is one of the little doodles I'm most proud of so far, even though I put very little effort into it. Thank you to everyone who left supportive comments or tips during this first month. Hopefully there are many more months to come.